let's continue. In this case, I will start typing our service name. Let's put like serverless backend. And then the next thing that we need is provider. In this case, we need this, and then we have to type the name of the provider, AWS. But before that, let me configure a couple of things so you guys can see clearly. Let me increase maybe 16. Yeah, it seems like 16 is the font size that we need. And you have to be really careful with this because this is a YAML file, and you have to really be careful with the spacing and the tabs that you are writing on this file. Otherwise, serverless will complain about that. And I will start with a very basic example, and I will create an endpoint, an HTTP endpoint, and then I will create a very small and simple lambda function. And we will try to deploy this project to AWS and also test this endpoint that we will create in a couple of minutes. But there is some small things that we need to set up: service name and a provider. In the serverless documentation, serverless.com, it says that you can use like not just AWS, you can also use like Azure and other cloud providers. In this case, we're going to stay just with AWS. And then you select the runtime environment for your backend. In my case, I will choose Node.js version 12. You can also use Python, for example, as a runtime environment. And then we have to define a stage. It's always recommended to use a stage, as many stages as you want. We will start with the dev stage. Then you can have your production stage as well. And we can talk about that, having like development environment and production environment in AWS with different accounts. But we can talk about it later. And then it's good also to specify the region. And in this case, if it will depend on which region you created your AWS account. Basically, it doesn't matter. You just create your AWS account and probably select a random region. And you can switch and you can select any kind of region that is available right there. In my case, if I go to AWS, and my region in this case is Stockholm. Let's do something. I will switch from Stockholm to Frankfurt. And so because I'm more familiar with this one and I'm using this one, I mean, you can use whatever region you see here, but I'm using this one because right now this region has almost everything, or at least all the services provide from AWS. So some regions, and you have to be aware, some services are not available yet. So it will depend on what kind of projects and what kind of services you want to use from AWS. But at least for this demo project that we are using, it's almost any region should be fine to go. And in this case, this one is U Central 1. That's the region name. And then the other thing that we need, and let me see, I don't think we need something else. Probably here, let's just add this small step custom. I will put the stage. In this case, I have to write $, and then I need to take the curly breaks and opt. And I will explain you in a couple of minutes what is this about. And let me write provider and then stage. So when I'm saying custom, this is very important because you can have like custom values. And in this case, the custom stage that we are referring here basically is when you deploy your project to AWS using serverless command, you can specify to which stage you want to deploy. So here, if the user specify which stage he wants to deploy, then basically we are to take the name of that stage the user specifying. Otherwise, when you type self, basically you are referring to this document, this YAML file document. So otherwise, if the user doesn't specify like to which stage he wants to deploy, then from this document, go to the provider section. As you can see, it's highlighted there, and grab the stage that the user already defined there. So it's like at a default value. It's always good to have in order to avoid like deploying accidentally from development to production without your basically you agree before doing that. And the next thing that we need to type is the functions. In this case, AWS name these functions as lambda functions. I don't know why they decided to have this name, but that's the name that they receive. I think in Azure and Google Cloud, the name is just functions. The next thing that we need to do is like type a name. In this case, I will type whatever name it comes to my mind. In this case, I will type this one. And then we have to define a handler for the function. In this case, let me think a bit. First lambda that main, and now you will see what I mean when I type main in a couple of minutes. And then events, and you can see how I'm leaving like the space on the tab on each of the option that I'm typing here for this document. So this will be an HTTP event. Basically, this will be an endpoint. And then I have to define the path of this endpoint. And I will say first. This is just a very simple path. And then you can define the method as well, the HTTP method. Remember that we have several HTTP methods. In this case, I will use get. And then probably you want to put the course through. And then you can add like more configuration here, but I don't think we want to do that. I was just going to save this document for now. And this is like the very, very basic configuration of my serverless project. And then I have to create the handler that I defined here. So inside my serverless folder, let's create a new file name. And this will be first lambda.js. And then here is basically where we create the body of our serverless function. And that's what we are going to do next. Let's try just a small function. Let's see how export const main. And then this one, we don't have like an argument for this one. So for this example, let's do something like this. I will say like name, and then I would put like USA, and then I will type return. In this case, I will put message, and sorry about that, and I will save this function. And this is the main that I was referring in. If we go back to our serverless YAML file, here I'm specifying that from this file, from this handler, please return the value of the main function that I have inside here. So basically it's this one. So this is a very small example, and the next step that we need to do is basically deploy this project to AWS. But in order to do that, we need to have like a proper like AWS AM user account in order to do this. So I will show you next how we can do that.